Right guys, well we've come over to the Lamborghini stand. Actually it's quite busy for a press day. I have to say I was expecting to be a bit quieter than that. What we want to talk about on the Lamborghini stand is perhaps the one car that absolutely grabs me. Now the previous Huracan, I think from a styling viewpoint, was absolutely spot on, but dynamically it just didn't quite get there. And it wasn't really able to play with the big boys at Ferrari and McLaren. But now they've introduced the Lamborghini Huracan EVO. This is a car that produces the same brake horsepower as the Lamborghini Huracan Performante, 631 with 448 pounds-foot of torque. Let's go on the stand and have a look. Now, actually new for the show today is the Spider. And I think the Spider looks absolutely stunning, especially in this colour. Now there's been a number of changes for the EVO, but it's a new interior design. There have been lots of different modifications for aero purposes around the car, but the basic shape of the original Huracan is maintained. So you can see they've restyled the front of the car and they've restyled the side of the car. I think in Spider form it's a really good looking machine. Now the Coupe comes in at £206,000 and that perhaps could be a problem, which we'll discuss later. But in essence, this is a car where they've taken and leaned heavily on the technology and the aerodynamics from the Performante. Although you can see here it's not active aerodynamics to the same extent, because on the Performante you had the ability to take in air onto either side of the rear spoilers, so you could actually provide downforce on the side that needed it the most. I think it looks a bit more aggressive as well from all angles. Now one of the big areas for this car is something called LDVI, which is really Lamborghini Dinamico Veicolo Integrata. Basically what that is an ECU that takes all the components of the car. So we're talking about all-wheel drive here, we're talking about four-wheel drive, we're talking about torque vectoring, and we're talking about suspension management. And it puts them all together to provide the best traction that can be provided via the computer systems. Now I've not driven this, but every video that I've watched has said how this car has moved on from the previous generation Huracan. Absolutely stunning. Few disadvantages perhaps with it. Apparently, certainly in the Coupe, the headroom is a little bit limited inside the car for people that are over 6 foot. I think there's very little other than that. I suppose I have heard that the brakes fade a little under heavy use, and you can't separate the drivetrain from the engine. So if, for example, you want the most aggressive form of power, but you want, because you're on a bumpy road, you want a soft setting. As in Ferrari's case, the bumpy road setting, you can't have this in this. So you have to have in Strada and Sport, you have to have the most aggressive engine settings with the most aggressive drivetrain settings. Whereas I always quite liked in our Speciale having what they call the Corsa mode, which is their softest suspension setting. This is the first Huracan to have the rear wheel steer, and apparently it already a short car, but it makes it so maneuverable. In the same way, it up to 15 miles per hour, or maybe it's less than that, they steer in the opposite direction to the front wheels to give more maneuverability, and then above a certain speed they steer in the same way as the front wheel drive to give more stability. I'd quite like just to pop over to the hardtop, because I must admit, if I was going to have one myself, I would more than likely go for the hardtop. Really quite taken with this car. I reserve judgment until I get a chance to drive one, but I'm quite taken with it.